welcome to Relaxed Male, podcast that helps men change their relationship with themselves. I am your host, Brian, and I am a men's life and mindset coach who is here to help you understand that you don't have to suffer at your own expense. You can live your dream, and I encourage you to set, then pursue your goals. So join me as I change the mindset and attitudes of men so that they can be the leaders of their families and their destinies. All right, so today we have got Matt Sinkovitz. He is a coach and counselor that helps men actually get out of the oppressive weight that porn can actually provide and that can put on a man's soul and his life. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is talking about porn and try to see if we can come up with a kind of an actionable solutions as to things that you can actually try to get if you're finding yourself under that heavy oppressive habit of looking at porn, even if it's, month at a time, you may go months or whatever. It can cause a lot of different problems. So we're going to see what we can, how we can get ourselves out from underneath that. So Matt, glad to have you on the show, man. It was a pleasure. We've been kind of friends on Facebook for a while. I'm part of your, Making Peace with Porn, Facebook group, which is a great group. I see all the questions and you've got a lot of activity on there, which makes me jealous because I'm really wanting to get a Facebook group up. Played it with them multiple times, and it's just like it's a ghost town. I see more tumbleweeds going across there than comments and questions. So I love how successful your group is, and something that I kind of want to aim for down the road. So, how did you get into wanting to help men with their porn problem?
Yeah, brother. Well, frankly, just as a result of my own, 20 plus year compulsive relationship with porn, I'm in my 30s, I'm 37.
Okay.
And, began with pornography like many of us, I guess in my, age 10, 12, somewhere in there, my late, early teens, time frame. And It was just something that for me, I had dealt with, most of my, a lot of my childhood and a lot of my young adult life.
Right.
And, this theme of needing to resolve some things for myself sexually just continued to show up for me. And I've been involved in personal development and spiritual development work for many years.
Okay.
Investing in myself, doing my own work, and that ultimately leading to me, really getting into the position of spiritual mentorship and guidance with others, personal development work with others, and really feeling a call for that sort of work in my own life. And I was actually working with a coach. I ended up hiring a coach for myself because porn was something I tried to quit and overcome, resolve for myself for many years on my own, which is what most men do,
Right.
First of all, you think you can do it on your own. Plus, there's a lot of kind of just inherent, shame that we feel around it. So it's not like one of those conversations that we feel very open to seek help out about. We feel alone very much in it. But I ended up investing in myself and getting a coach, hiring a coach to work with and resolving this for myself, because I recognized I had tried over and over on my own, but was unsuccessful. And I just recognized it was also one thing that that was like impeding everything else in my life. It was affecting me spiritually. It was affecting me in my relationships. It was affecting me in my work, in my sense of purpose, my relationship with God, my, health, everything. It continued to sabotage me. So I recognized it was something that was really affecting everything else. So I ended up doing the deep work and creating a lot of success in my own life around that. And kind of that experience paired with this kind of call to work with others and serve others. I just kind of recognized it was something that there's a big need for, and just began moving into supporting others in the way that I had found resolution in my own life.
Okay. And so you were saying that you were noticing that it was holding you back. Now, what are some, cause a lot of guys, I'm one for a while. It's, we look at porn, we, peruse the different sites, or even, growing up, we, found our friends or even our dad may have had a Playboy collection.
Exactly.
And things. And yeah, there were good articles, but come on. No, most guys weren't looking at it just strictly for the articles.
Right.
But when you said that it was impacting like so many different aspects of your life, what are some examples of that, that impacting? Cause a lot of times it may be impacting us in some way that we really aren't realizing how it's impacting, say, like your professional life. How was porn causing a problem in your professional career?
Yeah, sure. Well, okay. Well, professionally, I think that's a very obvious, maybe a more obvious, answer. But pornography has a way, just like kind of on for a very surface level conversation,
right,
has a way of being distracting, affecting our productivity. There were several years of my professional career I worked from home. You know what I mean?
Okay.
You're surfing the internet. In the afternoon, you're supposed to be working, and you end up on a porn site, and it turns into a bender for the rest of the afternoon.
I got
that. Could be like a very simple surface kind of sign or symptom. But even below that is the way in which pornography has a way of draining us energetically.
Right.
And inducing feelings of shame, guilt, fear, which all hinder our success, our momentum, our interest in creating, greater levels of success or momentum in our lives. So it has a way of kind of hijacking us.
Okay.
And I think, speaking to that even on a deeper level, it was really impacting my sense of integrity.
Okay.
For me, it was out of alignment.
I understand that.
Yeah. And I was moving more into this work of service and working with others and leadership. And I didn't feel in integrity, in my work or in my business, having kind of these skeletons in the closet that I had not dealt with yet. So those would be a couple of kind of obvious examples.
Right. Okay. Now, one of the big deals, and sadly, a lot of guys I don't feel really recognize it until later, but a lot of that time, especially when it comes to relations with our prospective wives, girlfriends, even teenagers leading up to it. I mean, we've got there's almost I hesitate to call it an epidemic, but it's there's a lot of even young men who are in the prime of their life who are having sexual problems because they have grown up from, 8 years old to 18, 19, 20 years old, where they've done nothing but, instead of engaging with girls in the real world and getting to know them and things like that, they're starting to really, they shrink back to the easy thing. It's look at the girls on videos and things like that. That seems to be the easier way to take things. And sadly,
Sure.
I've seen that, a lot of times. And when it comes to relationships, men often have, we want to take the easy route instead of actually doing the battle of taking our own masculine energy. It's easier to just let that energy go, and instead of holding on to it. I noticed, because I've done a couple of experiments where, because I still not in a place where I really think I've ever been addicted to porn, but I've looked at how is porn affecting me. And that's one of those things where I got around to noticing, after watching maybe do an hour of looking at porn or so, after that, any type of interaction I had with the wife, there wasn't as good of a level on there.
100%.
And having, and a lot of times I think guys, what was it? Something About Mary, where they were talking about, where you want to make sure you think like a girl, but you remember that, the famous, bathroom scene, where Ben Stiller was helping himself, out before, he went out on a date with Mary.
Yeah.
That they said that it was you were to help him think more of a girl instead of thinking more of a guy. And I think sadly a lot of guys have taken that almost to heart, where they kill off that masculine sexual energy. Yeah. It can be viewed as something bad. I don't view it as bad unless it is allowed to go to a dark place, but it allows you to really start focusing in and seeing, hey, when's that girl across, over on the next, in the cubicle over, was she really flirting with me? Or, or your wife makes a very subtle hint that, if you had gone, if you'd held on to your masculine energy a bit longer, you may have actually picked up that little subtle signal that she was wanting to tell you that, hey, she's kind of feeling amorous herself.
Yes.
So with all those mixed signals that come in, with, hey, porn is easy. Yeah. It's nice to look at. It's an easy way to activate your male energy. When does porn, I was going to say stop getting in the way, but it never actually does stop. When does porn, really start to interfere with men's lives? Is it, is there a little bit, maybe just catching one quick video and just going on with your day? Or is it something where you would actually advocate, cut the whole thing off, just try to get out of your life? You do, almost like, how, alcoholics, stay away from, keep yourself from any type of triggers that would cause you to get into trouble with having just one drink or whatever. Is that something that you actually try to help your guys with, and making sure that they just stay as far away from it as possible? Or am I making any sense with my question at all?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. What I'm hearing you ask is, at what point does porn become a problem for men, and is it total abstinence, or is a moderate relationship with porn possible? Right. Maybe something like that.
Yes.
Okay. So, we take this very non-judgmental approach to porn in our community.
Okay.
Which is maybe not the common approach, but we recognize, just like you kind of mentioned alcohol, just like some people can have a couple beers and it's okay. It's not a problem for them. Some people can engage in porn maybe more consciously, or in an amount or in a limit that is not detrimental. Whereas, some people, if they have one sip of alcohol, it's going to turn into a potential bender and relapse and destruction, in many areas of life.
Right.
The same way pornography for many guys, there's no like moderate kind of relationship that works, So there's no just doing porn casually. So for a lot of guys, it's an all or nothing approach.
Okay.
The way we kind of really get clear on that is just asking some simple questions. Maybe someone listening to this podcast is asking themselves, I'm not sure if porn has a problem for me. It's something I've considered, but I don't really know. I think you have to really kind of look at a couple things. How do you feel? Like, if you really tune in to yourself at a soul level and just like tune into your consciousness.
Okay.
What's coming up for you around that? You know what I mean? Like, if you have any sort of relationship with that voice or with that which guides you in your life, just be honest. Like, what comes up for you? What's your first answer? Is it something that is in integrity with the man that you are called to be? how do you feel when you engage with porn? Is there any guilt or shame or remorse around it? What about afterwards? Do feelings of guilt, shame, remorse set in? Do you find yourself that as you mentioned, Brian, do you find yourself that you are more socially withdrawn?
Right.
You're not engaging with your wife. You are, experiencing feelings of maybe fear and anxiety in your life. You're feeling, you're feeling depleted of your power, so to speak, of your essence. Another clear indicator would be, is it impacting? If you really look, you have to look and really be noticed. But is it impacting you at work? Is it affecting your productivity? Is it affecting? Are you masturbating during the day and then not engaging with your wife at night?
Right.
Are you in some level of service or leadership, and you're engaging in porn, right? Outside of that, and then you go and you show up to do your work, and you're feeling inauthentic or incongruent in that work.
Okay, I got you.
So you have to really look at what are the impacts and implications of your life, because coming back around, some people and even couples engage in pornography in a healthy way, but for some guys it's just not healthy.
Just not.
And you have to really take a close look at those signs and symptoms in your own life.
Gotcha. So is there any way that you can kind of, in the way you help guys, is there a way to that they could tell? Is there, kind of like a little test or experiment that they could be able to do over like a weekend or a week or so as to whether or not they are addicted? Because maybe they're just telling themselves, it's, I'm not, I enjoy it once a week and that's all there is. But, it's kind of almost like a functioning alcoholic, to stick with that particular line. Is there something that guys can do to kind of go, there might be something to that. I might actually have maybe I'm full of myself about, I don't have a problem.
Yeah. I think, you have to, so just to kind of go back to my last, response, I think you have to look at the potential adverse impacts. Okay. So if you're really being honest with yourself, do you feel in integrity with the man that you are called to be? Do you find afterward you're experiencing negative or adverse feelings, emotions, or kind of a way of conducting yourself? Is it creating lying? Are you lying? Are you hiding things in your relationship? Are you? Is it something a part of your life that you feel open and willing to share, or is it something that you're hiding? Here's another good one.
Okay.
Can you stop? Could you go 30 days without it?
Okay.
Or have there been times when you promised yourself that you were going to stop, but you found yourself back at it after a couple of days or a week? Those would all be indications that it's not something that you have a handle on, or is maybe not healthy.
Okay. And you've got like a 30-day challenge that you do from time to time, don't you?
In the group, yeah, we've done.
Okay.
We do these porn abstinence challenges in the group. They range from 5 to 7 days, depending.
Okay. And those you usually find a lot of the guys who, they really kind of surprises them whenever they do those. It's just always been fascinating whenever you go through those, and you just see a lot of the guys going, "Oh, wow! I figured there was a problem, but I didn't really think there was that much of a problem." So that's definitely. I would definitely. I like the trying to see how long you can go without, and if you go a month, 2 months, 3 months, okay, there may not be a problem there unless it's still interfering in some other fashion. Yeah.
Brian, can I just say something to
Absolutely.
that challenge?
Go for it.
Yeah, something that's really, I think, illuminating when guys embark on that challenge is, one, it's like, wow, I thought I had a handle on this, but it turns out I couldn't even go 5 days without it. That's pretty illuminating, and that really shines a light. That's what we try and do, is support the guys in abstinence, because it shines a light on things, So one, it begins to show them, oh, wow, I actually, I didn't think it was a problem, but here I can't go more than a couple of days without it. Mm-hmm. That's one thing. And what's also really illuminating about that challenge or that process is, wow, I didn't realize how good I feel without it. I didn't realize how, when it's not in my life, my confidence seems to come back. My sense of power seems to come back. My sense of integrity seems to come back. I can look people in the eyes more easily. I feel less awkward socially. People don't realize there's a lot of hidden, implications there that people just aren't aware of, Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the things, whenever I first joined up and did your 7-day abstinence, that was where I noticed that there was a big, a good sized gap where, I still don't really think I'm addicted, but I definitely see what impacts that does. It's almost like waking up the following day and, just having, a beer or, just a scotch every night. And then you go off and don't drink for a month, and you're realizing through that whole month where you're drying out, you're like, wow, okay, I'm clearer in my head. All of a sudden there's a lot more things that it wasn't impacting you. You weren't getting slobbering drunk every night. You were just enjoying a drink, or thought you were enjoying a drink, and come to find out you were just, you were still beating yourself up every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just, that was one of the, great eye openers that I personally found. And that's something, guys, I would actually recommend y'all try to do, just for giggles, man. Just go 30 days without porn, and then notice how often you notice your wife actually flirting with you. Or if you're single, how often, the girls around you are not, are actually paying attention to you and looking at you, and how you've been fooling yourselves as to, hey, there's none of the chicks around here like me. There's a lot of girls who probably were actually throwing out a bunch of hints, but your radar had been turned off because you'd been unplugged. So
there's definitely an energy to it. And when our energy's off, I think it can be noticed, and, with that challenge, it's just kind of like, if you don't drink much water, you kind of don't realize the impacts of being kind of generally dehydrated. Your mind's not as clear. Maybe you're getting a lot of headaches. Mm-hmm. Your energy's kind of low. You know what I mean? You don't really realize that stuff until you start drinking like a gallon a day, which is what I do. Then you kind of realize, like, wow, I didn't realize how poorly I was feeling before. You just don't have the awareness. So much of this journey is just about our awareness as it grows, and our levels of consciousness as it grows,
Right. I just want to jump off topic here just real quick because you mentioned the gallon a day. Are you doing that 75 hard? Is that where you got picked up that? Oh, good gosh. I've done 4 days. It's about the farthest I've gotten. And it's like, let's have pizza instead. So, cause I'm trying, I'm trying to do the diet of just very low carbs and stuff. So, yeah, I get about 4 or 5 days, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, hamburger, yeah. Oh, dadgummit, I've already succumbed to the inner voice. So,
yeah, I've done it. I've completed it one time fully. I'm going back through my second time. This is actually awesome. This is like my fourth attempt. But I made it 20 days before, and I made it 30 days before. But that's why it's so powerful, man. Because and this ties into our conversation because it's about the diet and it's about the physical benefits, but it's really a mental toughness challenge. It's really toughness. This challenge that helps you build that commitment muscle.
Right.
And it says, when I say something, I make a commitment, I do it. And that ties right into our relationship with porn and anything else that we are generally working towards greater levels of self-discipline or mastery or control over. And if you really want to make it powerful, Brian, make it do 75 hard publicly, share it on Facebook.
Oh,
because then there's a whole, that's what I do. There's a whole additional layer of accountability.
Right. Says so instead of just taking that personal selfie, that selfie every day, you're now taking that selfie and then sharing it. And then, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I can see how that definitely would add an extra level of I would call it a difficulty. It would be
accountability.
Yeah. Where you're actually you're showing everybody, hey, I'm doing this. I fell off the wagon again. And so, yeah. So if guys, do find themselves where their porn habit has gotten completely out of control. Not only are sneaking in views of it, at lunch, and they've got it on their phone in their lap while they're at a meeting or something like that. There's times where it can get so far out of hand that, even guys wind up, needing to get that little bit better sexual high every time, where they wind up getting themselves into even legal trouble.
Yes.
What are some ways that you can is there like a 12-step program for porn addiction, or is there, or is it, what are some ways that guys can start trying to see if they can wean themselves off of porn?
Yeah. So, I could speak to a couple things here. Yes, there are like 12-step programs out there. There are support groups. Maybe toward the end of our conversation here, I could recommend some specific things I recommend.
Okay.
But just to kind of begin to explore support out there. Yes, there are support groups out there. You can check out our community, the Making Peace with Porn community.
Okay.
I really think for a guy that has a real issue with it, and you've tried on your own all these, many times, and you've failed, you're operating blindly to a degree. And at the end of the day, with certain things, just like the DIY approach just doesn't cut it,
Okay.
or else you wouldn't still be dealing with it. So there are 12-step programs out there. I think the issue with a lot of free approaches is that there's no real commitment.
Right.
The guys come and go. You know what I mean? That's why, like, investing and working with someone, like what we pay for, we pay attention to.
Precisely,
there's a greater level of commitment, So I really think like working with a professional is the most powerful way to go about it. Okay. But there are lots of free approaches to begin exploring the conversation. And for instance, our community on Facebook is a free community that at least begins to open up the conversation and begins to let you connect with others that are in the journey, Okay. But yes, there are programs and processes out there.
Oh, okay. So if you are wanting to, I try to think how to phrase this. Is this something that if you're wanting to try to get yourself dried out, because I've dried out from porn, is this something that you want to involve your spouse in? Is there any, or is this something where if you were, because there's, when it comes to conversing with your wife, it's the man's job is to provide as much, positivity into her life. And when you are struggling or have something, like you've had a huge financial problem. You want to let her know that there might be some issues, but that's more of something that you want to make sure that you converse with your band of brothers with. It's so which band would you be, think that they should ask for help more from? Cause you may let your wife know, hey, sweetheart, I'm going to let you know I've been kind of a scoundrel. I've found myself deep in porn, and you may want to tell her that it may be something that you may feel that she knows that, or she doesn't want to, face that particular issue. And that's maybe something that you really don't want to, not necessarily bother her with, because anytime you come to something like that, that's definitely a bother. But is that something that is bothering? Having that conversation with a wife, is that something that you would say definitely needs to happen? Or is that something that if you can get the help and get yourself clean without having your wife worry about, are you looking at porn again? Are you, is that something that would be better to go through your band of brothers with, or should you have your band of brothers and your wife and try to get as much of a rally group around you?
I would 100% would say that it's something that would be good to share with your wife.
Okay.
Maybe the initial conversation would be within your community and other men that are on that journey with you. But I think at some point, sharing with your partner would be a really important step of the process. Again, this is something that a lot of men deal with by themselves. It's something that a lot of men don't feel comfortable talking about. It's something that a lot of men experience a lot of shame and guilt around. And it's also something that men, frankly, keep to themselves and lie about. And there's no accountability within the relationship. So for all those reasons, if you share with your wife, with your partner, you begin to take something that's so intimately deep and personal and such a deep challenge, if you do find yourself in that pit, and share it with probably, your most significant intimate relationship. You don't have to hide it on your own anymore. You can begin to release that. You create that greater level of conversation, that greater level of trust, that greater level of accountability. Pornography is really one of those things that thrives in the darkness, Right. And as we bring it to the light, as we open up that conversation, as we create greater levels of accountability around it, it weakens in its power, Beautiful. So I think initially, maybe connect with your brothers, but I think ultimately opening up that line of communication with your partner is so crucial. Otherwise, when you're not online, you're still at home by yourself and you still got this problem. I think to open up those channels of communication and shine that light on it, as hard of a conversation as it might be, is ultimately empowering and supportive in your journey.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful.
But she probably won't get it at first though. Because men that are really deeply entrenched in it, especially if a woman does not utilize pornography herself, she might not understand why you can't just stop. Just like someone might just say, well, why can't you stop drinking? To an alcoholic, it's just not that simple. It's very complex. It's very complex. And, so yeah.
So with you being in the, I guess you would call it almost the porn freedom area genre, where you're just getting people to free themselves from porn. Are you noticing that the porn problem is getting worse, or are you rounding a curve with men coming up and saying, hey, I'm not really worried about porn anymore. Or are we still a long ways up the hill?
I think there's a lot of work to do still. Of course, I don't know exactly where it is today. I mean, I'm up on a lot of statistics. The best sense I can get for it is through the dialogue and the conversations that occur in our community.
Okay.
And the clients that I work with one-on-one, and just the guys and the women, the wives even, that reach out to me, be like, hey, this is something I've been dealing with a long time. This is something that destroyed my last marriage. This is something my husband is heavily addicted to. I think between those just firsthand accounts and just kind of knowing, we just came out of COVID, where a lot of people have been spending a lot more time at home on their screens, disconnected.
Completely disconnected. I agree.
Yeah. And so I think that's really probably deepened a lot of men's relationship with pornography in their own lives. And there's a multi-billion-dollar industry out there that's growing, and really working, just like how tobacco, you know what I mean, or alcohol. There's an industry that's geared toward really hooking people on this thing,
Precisely.
So. And finally, the fact that kids younger and younger are being brought up with these cell phones in their hands. You and I, Brian, were lucky because at least for a part of my life, if I wanted the porno, fix, I had to be lucky enough to find a Playboy magazine in my neighborhood.
Exactly.
It wasn't until I was in my late teens that we had pornography introduced in the home. I mean, the internet in the home. So I think for a lot of those factors, I suspect it's probably growing, but and I think a lot of the statistics speak to that as well. So.
Well, I would agree with that. Just like I said from at the beginning, I mean, just noticing how many times I'm hearing where young men are struggling with, even just either establishing or even maintaining an erection. They just have so many erectile dysfunctions, that it's like, really, it can't be that's such a sad case. I mean, I remember those days. A slight breeze came along and I was ready to go. And so it was just to think that there are a whole group of young men just having that type of problem. And that adds on to the whole embarrassment. If you end up actually finding a girl or girlfriend and y'all are wanting to take it to that next level, it's, all of a sudden you're like, well, I gotta explain something to you. I'm going to have to look at some porn before we can do anything. That just is such a soul crushing way of introducing yourself to a girl. All of a sudden it's like, oh, well, you're pretty, but I've got to go look at, got to watch a couple of videos to really get the juices flowing. And that's, to have guys actually have that type of problem, that is actually easily fixed. And yet some guys sadly think that they're stuck like that. And that's not the case at all. I mean, the brain's, plasticity when it comes to that is quite amazing. Yeah. When you get yourselves fixed a lot more at a younger age, there talks about how some things may actually be a little bit more permanent, but I really don't think it's as permanent as a lot of people want to tell themselves. They give themselves a story of, that's just who I am. I'm just this way. And they find themselves so sunken into that victim mindset that to take the time and get out of that comfort zone of going, you know what? I'm bored. No one's in the house. I've got this 80-inch television. I could really watch all the gritty details I wanted to. And to say, no, never mind. I don't want to watch that anymore. I know I've got a date with Betty down the street here in a couple days. We'll see what happens then. And or even just if you're not even used to going out and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm bored. What do I do? What do I do? Instead of turning on the television, you go, well, let's go walk around the park and see, do the old fashioned, what we used to call scoping Betty's. I mean, come on. That was one of the great things. You go walk around the mall and just see if you could find a girl who would give you a phone number that was a real working number. Cause I got more fake numbers than I care to count. So,
yep.
So, but I agree. That is such a sad case where, the young guys these days don't experience that. And it's, I think a lot of that is with just the readily accessible phones that they have so that they are able to pull it up anywhere. And yeah, you've got that one guy who's always been talking about it and gets, talks one of the other, kids who may be a little more pure at heart into looking at something and just it's very drug-like, just the fact that, you're incorporating a lot of the same hormones of dopamine and serotonin and all those
for sure.
into it. So all of a sudden it does cause such a huge problem with young men. And it's not it seems okay. And it seems just harmless. You're not harming anybody. It's just you and a screen. So it's a victimless crime, so to speak. But sadly, those little tiny crimes that you're committing, they add up, and eventually, you get those kids who are having problems. And I mean, for a long time, argued with, porn's not that bad. Porn's not that bad. Porn's not that bad until, I started, noticing what the effects were with me. And it's like, oh, well, it may not be bad, but it's definitely not a good thing to have either. It causes, you're going to have those weird scenarios that jump into your head where, you're you're expecting, something. It's not that all the guys think that, if you go rescue a girl on the side of the road with a breakdown, that she's going to repay you in some type of sexual favor. But it almost seems like sometimes it's almost what some of the younger men actually think. I mean, you have a friend and she's got a girlfriend and they come over just to say hi, and you're because of all the interactions you've had with porn and stuff, you're almost thinking, hey, there's a possibility of three-way. And those social blunders that come in just because of, the false narratives that are created through porn are also detrimental to your way of interacting with other people. So porn's definitely not a good thing all around. And I definitely agree with you in that it's not something that guys should partake in. Or if they do partake in as little as possible, because I think you are blocking out a huge part of your life experience because you're more focused in on the screen than what's going on around you. So what are some resources that you have that would help guys to experiment with getting out of porn, things like that? What your your group, are there some?
Sure. Yeah. So in regard to the ED issues, which would be erectile dysfunction, some of the stuff you've spoken with, and you spoke to kind of the plasticity of the brain and these things, I would say, first of all, I'd love to share our group and what we have going on over there. I'll just say a really simple beginning resource would be to check out Your Brain on Porn, which is a great book. I forget who wrote it. You can find it though. That's an audio book. I'd highly recommend that. That speaks to a lot of accounts of men who have done this reboot, so to speak, and really recovered from a lot of these issues of ED and sexual dysfunction that a lot of men find themselves in, and really reinvigorated themselves in many ways in mind, body, and spirit. So that's a great starting point just for some insight as to some of the stuff we've been talking to today. Beyond that, I invite whoever may be listening to the Making Peace with Porn community, which we're an online forum on Facebook. It's totally private. Keep a really close eye on membership. We really want to make sure it's a safe space for guys to come in and have a place that they feel comfortable sharing and know that whatever they share there is going to be honored and private and confidential.
Okay.
And of course that's a free space. That's Making Peace with Porn, Facebook group. And you can begin the conversation, or at least kind of see that there's a lot of other men dealing with this. And just by connecting with other men and even beginning to share your journey as you're so inspired, there's real power in that. Beyond that, we offer we call it the Liberation Boot Camp, which is a 90-day group program, which is a paid program, and it's a group of men that are going through our process right now. We really work to help them create long-term abstinence in their journey, create deep levels of awareness around their root relationship with porn. That's a big piece of it. Like what's really going on with my relationship with porn, and also building the habits and skills to be able to overcome the urges and really create long-term freedom in their lives. So that would be the ultimate, and I think the best option to creating long-term abstinence from this.
All right, awesome. And those links to that book, Matt's Facebook group, also Matt's other social media sites, and the links to those will all be found on the show notes. And also the link to the Liberation Boot Camp will be there. So if you're interested, you're going to be able to go look at the show notes inside the podcatcher. Most of them have a link. If not, there will be a link that you can click to take you over to the website itself, or on Relaxed Mail, and be able to get to the different resources that Matt has mentioned here. So Matt, going ahead and getting around to closing up. What are some points of encouragement that you can give to guys who are finding themselves in that pool of porn that they're just, and they're really thinking that, yeah, they need to get themselves out of that?
Well, encouragement would be that, freedom is available. Freedom is possible. Pornography can feel like a real prison. Mm-hmm. It can feel like a real pit. It can feel like a real hell. And I think it is of sorts, There's a real sense of hopelessness. And a lot of that's tied into what a lonely journey it is,
Right.
But the hope is not the hope is, but the encouragement would be that there is hope and there is freedom available, but it does require work, deep levels of work mm-hmm. and growth in mind and in spirit. There's an evolution required there, I think, but it's possible. There are millions. That's probably an understatement of other men out there dealing with this same issue. So you're not alone. And there's help out there. There's support out there. And whatever you may be dealing with is, I think, to a degree, there's a way to recover and there's a way to rebound. So if you're feeling like you're dealing with ED or whatever may be going on, or you're no longer attracted to your wife or women in general, and you're not feeling that level of attraction you used to feel, that all I think is recoverable with the work and with the abstinence, So
right. Okay.
There's hope. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, Matt, I'll go ahead, and I know you've got some other engagements coming up on you here, so I will go ahead and I'll let you go. I appreciate you tremendously on coming onto the show and helping guys understand that, yeah, you may have some porn in your life, but it's not something that has to necessarily hold you back. You can let that load go and become a lot more free, and you can make peace with that skeleton in your closet and put him to rest and live your life completely free, full, and on your terms.
Yes.
So thanks again, man. Appreciate you. We'll see you over in the Facebook group, man.
Thank you, Brian.
Take care, Matt. Bye-bye. All right. And there we go. All right, man. I appreciate it tremendously. That was amazing.
Appreciate you, brother.
A lot of great information there. So.
My pleasure, brother.
All right. Well, I'll let you go get yourself out. I know you saw you with your jug, so I was going to say let you go get a drink of water, but there it is, refilled and refilled again. So, but anyhow, so I'll let you get you a chance to stretch your legs and all that. So, and like I said, I'll see you over on Facebook.
Brian, I really appreciate you, brother. Thanks so much for having me on today.
You take care. Bye-bye.
Take care, brother. Bye-bye.